The prominent nose was long and flat. The mouth was slit with barely discernible lips. The eyes, which never blinked, were the dominant feature. The shape of the eye and the shape of the pupil were like those of a cat, with a thin, slanted eyebrow above. Alright guys, so I'm headed out to do a little bit of camping tonight, to do some stealth camping. It's actually a really local spot to me, and it's got a really cool story behind it. So hopefully everything goes well. Honestly, this is not a great spot to be trying to camp, I don't feel like, but it is what it is. Like the stories, I'll read you guys some stories and give you some more information about the spot, but there really isn't a good spot to try to camp out at. There's a couple of businesses right here. One of them is a restaurant. Right now I'm going to the restaurant. I'm gonna meet my wife there. We're gonna have some dinner, and then as we leave, we're gonna try to leave just shortly before closing time. I'm gonna crawl in the truck, and then she's gonna drive the car home, and it's not necessary, but I might as well have something good to eat while I'm going out there. I don't really want to be causing much commotion or doing much in the back of the truck when I get there. We'll have the curtains closed. I did not bring the Reflectix, even though that would help a lot tonight because it's going to be cold and I'm going to be using the propane heater. I did not want that reflection in the windows because I believe there are parking lot lights here. At least I'm pretty sure there are. So anyways guys, we'll be there in just a second. So I'm hoping that there's a few cars parked in the parking lot here. And then tonight, I don't know, that's what I'm more worried about, when the parking lot empties out, what's gonna happen, but we'll see. So I'm currently on Highway 6 in Nebraska. And right here, I'm coming up to the intersection of Highway 6 and Highway 63. And here's the intersection. Like I said, there's lights all over. So it's gonna be kind of lit up here, which is why I didn't want the Reflectix in the windows. But right here is the intersection of Highway 6 and 63. And this is the parking lot where we will be attempting to stay tonight without getting ourselves caught up. I need to try to find a level spot, guys. So I'm gonna get parked here, and then I'll get back to you guys. All right guys, I'm here. I've got the truck parked right here. There's the intersection right there, and I'm gonna go ahead and crawl back in. I just ate over here at the restaurant, so. I'm in here. I know you can't see me right now. I'm gonna get all the blinds closed. All right, these blinds are all closed. I have the front ones open still, but the front is facing right towards the road. There shouldn't be anybody that walks out in front of me. Let me tell you guys what the forecast is for this evening. I have cars parked on both sides of me right now, so I have to be kind of quiet because there's going to be people coming out. The restaurant closed 11 minutes ago. There's still people in there eating, but they're going to be coming out shortly. And then as the workers leave, I have to be wary of that. I'm more worried about the parking lot being empty tonight. But the building right here behind me is like a mechanic shop, and there's cameras all over. So that's at least a bit comforting. Oh, so very lucky. It's currently 39, feels like 34 with a low of 32 tonight. So it's not going to be that cold. So I'm actually going to hang out for a bit. Before we get into reading this story, I'm going to take a look at some stuff on my phone. And I do have some sweatpants to change into. I am still in my jeans, as you guys can see. Let this place close down and kind of die down, and then we'll get to talking about the story.
No, I need to get those butt warmers going.
There's people outside right next to me.
No, here, first.
right, guys. So it's been a couple hours. It's 10 o'clock. Everybody has finally left. All the workers have finally left. I've been sitting back here basically in the dark, just looking at my phone. Not really doing much, waiting for everybody to leave. I'm gonna go ahead and crack myself a brewski. I just brought myself a tall boy. I'm not gonna be sitting back in here cracking repeated beers, but I figured I'd have one while we're sitting here, so let's crack this open. That's pretty tasty. So like I said, as we were pulling up, I'm at the intersection of Highway 6 and Highway 63 here in Nebraska. And right here at this intersection, on December 3rd of 1967, there was an alien abduction. And I know most people are like, oh, whatever. Some people believe in them, some people don't. Some people just say there's no explanation. Kind of the best part about this abduction or sighting that happened at this area was that it was a police officer from here in town. So this is just outside of Ashland, Nebraska. And I've got this here, and this was given to me today by a, let's just say, an employee of the Ashland Police Department. You know who you are. Thank you. I appreciate it. There's still cars going down the highway. So I had heard about the story. I've lived here for quite a while, but I've heard about the story roughly 10 years ago. I thought there was somebody. It's hard to tell which side people are driving on. The highway's right there, but with all the buildings right here, the sound reflects off of it, and sometimes it sounds like they're driving behind me in the parking lot. But okay, let's just get back to the story. So I probably remember hearing about the story like 10 or so years ago, and I completely forgot about it. And then I want to say it was last year, or like in 2020, or maybe it was 2019, but there was a local brewery that came out with a beer, and the beer was kind of based off the story of this. The beer was kind of based off of this story, and not this particular document here, but there was a let's say a graphic novel. I keep wanting to say a comic book, but I think it was considered a graphic novel. Let's see if I can find that. This story calls it a comic book, written by Michael Jasorka. I may be saying that wrong. So the name of the comic book isn't really crazy. It's just called December 3rd, 1967, An Alien Encounter. So then there was a local company that made a beer about it. This comic book was kind of brought back up into the news, and I was never actually able to get my hands on any of the beer. I don't even know what the name of it was. I think it was made by Quady Brewing locally, but don't quote me on that. And this is a 16-page, I guess, document about what happened. And this was written, I want to say this was, the introduction was written by somebody named Gary Nelson, but I believe some of the information in here was written by others. But there's no name on the front here. I'm not going to read this whole thing. I'm hoping to be able to scan this all and save it into some sort of like Google document or something like that, and put it down in the description so that you guys can take a look at this and read it. I did read it. It's actually kind of interesting. Second page is introduction, background, initial report, the Condon committee session, and the second session. So I'm just going to go through some of the information in here and give you the basic story. Let's see here. So in the introduction, I'll go ahead and read this paragraph to you, I guess. This kind of explains about what's going on in this little document or report here. So the officer that was abducted by the aliens, his name is Herbert Shermer. So police officer Herbert Shermer's 1967 UFO sighting and abduction is by far the best known UFO event to have taken place in Nebraska. It became part of a much larger story that took place during the mid-1960s. Those few years can be viewed as a transitional period between the early years of modern UFO era and the present time. The former was a time dominated by daylight discs and nighttime lights. The latter is a time often dominated by Roswell and abductions. Like the UFO topic itself, the Shermer encounter evolved and became more complex and perhaps more controversial. The following is an attempt to tell the story of the experience of Herbert Shermer. It is based upon the extensive research of John Booter, Assistant Director of the Nebraska chapter of the Mutual UFO Network, MUFON. Hopefully this is a reasonable, accurate account of what happened. And there's a couple pages here of background of some different stories of different sightings that kind of led up to this sighting and then what became of it afterwards. But we'll just go to the actual story itself. This is, I guess, section 2, the original report here. So, the Ashland Gazette of July 13, 1967 announced the securing of a third full-time policeman to serve on the Ashland Police Force. His name was Herbert Shermer, 21 years of age, 6 foot 3 inches tall, and weighing 220 pounds. Shermer, the officer, was a Navy veteran who had served in Vietnam. His father had been an Air Force carrier man. He had gone to school in Japan, Germany, France, Hawaii, and he was described as a stolid, unimaginative, no-nonsense kind of person with an easy smile. All indications were that he was considered reliable and competent and was respected by his colleagues and the general public. An Ashland businessman said Herb likes people, he doesn't antagonize them. It was said that he had a sixth sense concerning police work and that he was described as a cop's hunch. So we'll get into the actual story of the abduction here. Sighting and abduction. And keep in mind, where this is supposedly happened is probably 75 feet behind me. So, on Sunday, December 3rd, 1967, Patrolman Shermer had been with the Ashland Police Department for 7 months. He was one of 3 officers on the force. Ashland is a small town. By most accounts, he went on duty that day at 5 p.m. It was a clear, calm, and moonless night. He followed the usual routine, patrolling the streets and back alleys of Ashland. Makes it sound so terrible, the back alleys. Sometime before 1 a.m., he began to feel uneasy. His reputed cop's hunch perhaps came into play. He headed to the edge of town. Dogs were howling all over the area. He decided to check the local sale barn and the adjoining pens and corrals. He returned at 1:35. The cattle seemed to be in a panic, bawling and kicking at the fences, he later stated. There was a big bull in the corral. He was really upset. He was kicking and charging at the gate. I made sure the gate would hold. I scanned the area with my spotlight, but there was nothing out of the ordinary. But he could still not shake that uneasy feeling. Sometime after 2 a.m., he checked a couple of gas stations along U.S. Highway 6. Highway 6 is the road right in front of me right here that goes down. At 2:20, he continued southwest. So north is that direction. So he was coming this direction from Ashland, which is kind of that way behind me. As he neared the intersection with Route 63, on Highway 6 and Route 63, which is the road right here. 63 is the intersection right here that goes south to to Interstate 80 right here. As he neared the intersection with Route 63, he noticed flickering red lights to his right. A ridge then obstructed his view and he passed through the intersection, but he then turned around at a loop of road on the right shoulder and headed back towards the intersection. As he did, he checked his watch. It was 2:30. He thought the lights might be the lights of a stopped truck. He slowly turned the corner and drove a short distance up 63 and stopped, his headlight shining ahead. He switched on his high beams. When he shined on whatever was there, he later said, "As soon as my headlights, which were on bright, struck the object, I knew it was no truck, and what I saw scared me." What he saw was a football-shaped object silently hovering partly over the highway and partly over the shoulder next to the ditch, and a steep embankment next to the road, which I think I know kind of exactly where it's at. Nothing in these documents actually say the exact specific location. Everything that I've read, including this and some different articles online that you can find, all just say it took place near the intersection of 6 and 63, right where I'm sitting. It was approximately 6 to 8 feet above the ground and was tilted a little from horizontal, so it wasn't sitting perfectly flat. It is at least as wide as the road, and Shermer later estimated its size as 20 feet long and 14 feet high. Its surface shined like polished aluminum. I don't want to read this entire thing to you. Well, I guess I can just read these next 2 pages, and then I'll kind of give you a basic overview what the rest of this is, just so you have the full story of the actual incident here. I keep thinking I'm hearing people out there, but maybe it's the aliens. Okay. Let's see. Its surface shined like polished aluminum. The red light came from a row of 8 evenly spaced portholes, each about 2 feet in diameter. Beneath them was a flange or a catwalk which encircled the object, which I guess is basically kind of what they have drawn here on the cover. And I don't know if that was a drawing that he did or something like that or not, but when Shermer's headlights hit the object, the red lights brightened considerably and pulsated more rapidly. He checked to see if he had his nightstick and chemical mace close at hand and drove closer to the strange machine. It started to rise gradually, and the silence and night was shattered by a loud undulating sound that was later compared to the siren of Ashland's new fire truck. It emitted a flame-colored glow from the underside. He didn't notice any odor, smoke, or exhaust. It fluttered slightly from side to side in what has been described as the falling leaf motion. He stuck his head out of the cruiser's window and watched as the object rose over his car and then shot straight up out of sight. It was gone in the blink of an eye. He got out of the car with his flashlight and made a cursory inspection of the site. He found nothing unusual. He made the 5-minute trip back to the station. The incident and drive could not have lasted more than 10 minutes, yet it was 3 a.m. When he got back to the station, 20 minutes had disappeared. So if you follow like any kind of abduction stuff, or if you've read anything about that, missing time is a big part of it. So some accounts say Shermer went to the restroom and drank lots of cold water when he got back, while others say he downed 2 steaming cups of coffee as if they were cold water. The officers coming on duty warned him about putting the sighting into the log, but he also told him of seeing UFOs and entities on 2 separate occasions on his way to Wahoo, which is farther north than Ashland. But Shermer went and wrote in the station log, saw a flying saucer at the junction of Highway 6 and 63, believe it or not. So he went back to his apartment. He didn't sleep much that night. Let's see, he had a bad headache. He was hearing a lot of buzzing noises. He also had a red welt running down his neck below his left ear. So when the chief came in and saw the report on the log the next morning, he headed right for Shermer's home and went to talk to him. He later, the chief later told a reporter at the Lincoln Journal-Star, "I put the question right to him and he told me what he saw. I don't doubt him. He saw something and reported it the way he saw it." They went and looked at it. The 2 of them went to the area. He notified Offutt Air Force Base, which is in our area, and the chief continued to express confidence in Shermer. He's a good policeman. He never reported anything that wasn't the way he saw it, and I had faith in him that if he saw something, if he says it was a flying saucer, well, then it must have been a flying saucer. I'm going to back him all the way and stick my neck out for him. And he is perfectly willing to take a polygraph test. He did take a polygraph test. The test indicated that the policeman was telling the truth when he saw something and that it looked like a flying saucer. They took a Geiger counter out to the site of where it happened, and it spiked. The reading was about 160 times higher than the normal rate for this area. On Friday, Air Force Captain Roy Cunningham, UFO investigating officer at Offutt Air Force Base, told the Lincoln Journal-Star he had forwarded the information he had received from Chief Walshin on the polygraph test and the Geiger counter readings to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio for analysis. It will be up to them to decide if further action is taken. By Wednesday, December 3rd, 2 investigators for the Condon Committee were in Ashland. Roy Craig, a physical chemist, and Professor John Ahrens, a research assistant, questioned Shermer about his report, and they examined his police car on the site. And then it goes into this chapter about the Condon Committee, And let's see if I can just give you a basic idea of what the Condon Committee is. Let's see, on August 31st, Colonel Ivan C. Atkinson, Deputy Executive Director of the Air Force Office of Scientific Research, formally asked the University of Colorado to conduct a comprehensive examination of the UFO problem. And this is on, this is going over multiple different cases that have been reported throughout the United States, many of which were talked about in the background of this report. It was to be independent of the authority of the Air Force. On October 6th, the contract was formalized. The study was to be led by Dr. Edward U. Condon, a world-renowned physicist, assisted by Robert Lowe. The project was to commence November 15, 1966. 15 months later, 2 investigators from this project visited Ashland, Nebraska to study case number 42, the close encounter of police officer Herbert Schirmer. And that's where the report then goes. And they not only came to talk to him, Schirmer and the chief of police were also, they went to Colorado to speak with these people. I think on 2 separate occasions there was like hypnosis used, and under hypnosis they talk about some other things. And this then goes into Schirmer kind of, it's a more detailed story that I guess was brought out during hypnosis. His police radio would not work when he tried to call Wahoo. The car's engine died and the headlights went out. The metallic football-shaped craft hovered over the field for a moment. 3 telescopic legs descended from the bottom and it settled on the ground. Schirmer was afraid but was prevented from trying to leave his car, and prevented is in quotations, like he was basically frozen. He couldn't do anything. Entities exited the ship and approached the car. Schirmer tried to draw his revolver but was once again prevented. The entity standing in front of the car held something in his hand that seemed to eject a green gaseous substance that enveloped the car. Either that entity or another withdrew some kind of device out of a holster, pointed at the windshield, and a bright light similar to but brighter than a camera flash paralyzed Schirmer and apparently caused him to black out. When he came to, he rolled the window down. One grabbed him by the left side of the cheek, which caused that sudden pain and that mark that he said he had. He opened the door and stepped out of the car. One of the entities stared at him with cat-like eyes in a way that made him uncomfortable and asked, "Are you the watchman over this town?" Trying to look away from the probing eyes, Schirmer answered that he was a policeman. He was taken in, his account is that he was taken into the ship. He was escorted into their craft. He stepped into a cold 26 by 20 foot room illuminated by a reddish light. The ceiling was only about 6 feet high. 2 occupants entered the ship with him and 2 remained outside as guards. The ladder retracted and the opening closed. The occupants communicated both telepathically and conventionally. Either way, his words were heard in kind of a broken English and seemed to come from deep within his body. He told the policeman, and this is one of the beings, he told the policeman that the ship was an observation craft with a crew of 4. They came from a nearby galaxy. They have been observing us for long periods of time, and they think that if they slowly put out reports and have their contacts state the truth, it will help them. The 4 members of the crew, the 4 beings of the crew, were from 4.5 to 5 feet tall. Schirmer described them as muscular, wiry, and barrel-chested. They stood with a rigid posture and walked with a military bearing. They knew what they were doing. Their heads were long and narrow, and their complexions were smooth and gray-white. Schirmer called it a pasty dough color. The prominent nose was long and flat. The mouth was slit with barely discernible lips. The eyes, which never blinked, were the dominant feature. The shape of the eye and the shape of the pupil were like those of a cat, with a thin, slanted eyebrow above. They wore tight-fitting one-piece uniforms with gloves and boots. The suit went over the head without covering the face, like a balaclava hat. All parts of the uniform were same silver-gray color. He noticed no seams, zippers, or buttons. The only insignia on the uniform was a small patch on the left side of their uniforms. It looked like a snake with wings. And that emblem, I guess, has been noticed across multiple different sightings. The visitor also demonstrated the technology that enabled them to extract small amounts of electricity from power lines. He said I should look out the window, Schirmer remembered. He pushed a button. I saw an antenna-like thing move down and around to where it pointed at a power line.
He must have pushed another button, and then there was a sudden white spurt of electricity. It shot out of the electrical line and went right into the tip of the antenna. The captain also told Shermer that an invisible force field surrounded the ship to protect it when it was on the ground. It was this energy field that stopped automobile engines, interfered with radio communications, and sometimes caused a tingling sensation in humans and animals. Gives a little bit more information, and it says he was escorted out of the spaceship and walked back to his police car. As the 4 humanoids re-entered the ship, he watched as the bottom of the craft brightened with a reddish-orange glow, the legs retracted, and the observation ship with a strange crew shot up into the dark. So there's quite a bit of a story to it, and this is a much longer, more detailed story than I had. I had read a few different stories on Google when that beer came out, but it was short paragraphs and not a lot of information. Basically that it had happened, it was in this area, and the date was really all that was said about it. So Shermer ended up, I believe he quit the force less than 2 months later, something like that, and basically became a recluse. Yeah, it's kind of a wild story, and most people just kind of brush all these things off, but to have it come from a police officer obviously makes it a little bit different. And the fact that he put it in the logbook, he agreed to a polygraph test, passed the polygraph test, and then under hypnosis was able to kind of come up and reveal more things about what happened that still fit along with the regular storyline that he had given him to start with. And it explains a little bit more why he didn't have the full story to start with anyways, but you're gonna have to take a look at this. So like I said, it's about 16 pages, and I'm gonna do my best to get this stuff scanned and somehow linked in the description so that you guys can read this entire thing, and I will link some other information down below if I can find some. I haven't heard any little green men running around outside right now, but you never know what could happen. It rained a little bit. The temperatures are not very conducive to getting outside and doing much of anything right now. There's trains on this side, the highway's on this side. I'm not quite sure how well I'm gonna actually sleep in here tonight, but I might crank that heater on and get it warmed up in here a little bit. And I'm probably gonna get headed to bed pretty quick here. Like I said, guys, I didn't bring anything much to do other than look at my phone. I read that report, and I brought a tall boy to drink. So I'm gonna sip this guy down, and then I'm probably gonna head to bed because it's probably after 11 now. It's 11:30, and I'm gonna get up and get out of here before these places open in the morning, because this place right behind me opens at 8 o'clock. The restaurant doesn't open, I think, until like 11 or so. But some cool local history, and in the morning we'll look at this stuff a little bit more in the light. But it was late when I got here, so there's nobody else in the parking lot. That's kind of the thing I didn't want about this spot. Normally if you go try to boondock or something like this in a public spot, you don't want to be the only vehicle in the parking lot, but I'm just gonna send it and see what happens. If I get kicked out in the middle of the night, I get kicked out. But as late as it is now, all the restaurant staff left. Nobody even slowed down to look at me as they were driving by. So and it's lit up pretty well outside, so you can't really see any light from inside going out, which is also nice. And the fact that it's lit up means I shouldn't have to worry too much about people screwing with me. There are security cameras all over that building for sure. I don't think there's any on the restaurant, but I could be wrong. But like I said, guys, weird noises. Some weird noises out there. I'm making myself paranoid now reading about aliens, sitting out here in the back of my truck by myself. I'm gonna go ahead and go to sleep. Hopefully we make it through the night without any incidents, and I will see you guys in the morning. I'm gonna get up pretty early and get out of here, like I said, but we will take a look at supposedly exactly where it happened in the morning. So stay tuned. Good morning. Oh man, That's the highway out front. It's been pretty busy since about 5 o'clock. And it's currently 7:26. Other than the early traffic noise and the train noise last night, because the tracks are probably like 75 feet behind me. Other than that stuff, I didn't sleep too bad. But this business right here, this body shop thing or mechanic shop, looks like they're starting to open. I know they open at 8 o'clock and the lights are on the inside now. So I'd actually like to get out of here pretty quick. I was hoping it'd be a little bit lighter for you guys to see things, but I think you'll be able to see it out there. So I'm just gonna get up, I think, and throw my jeans back on and crawl out of here and get moving. And then we'll hop up in the cab and we'll kind of drive over, and I'll point out some of the areas that you probably couldn't see last night because it was dark out when I got here. Yeah, I'm gonna get these old sweatpants on. It's so loud out there. I can feel it shaking. It, like the trucks vibrate the truck. And I guess with there being the intersection right here and people turning, you'll hear trucks rolling by. Jake brake comes on. This whole back end of this truck is like just feels it feels pretty crazy back here. I'm betting I'm like 20 feet off the highway at best. We'll hop out. It's starting to get light out. We'll hop out and get the trucks started. There's my alarm actually going off. I have my alarm set for 7:30. This isn't gonna fit very well. I got a diaper on. Oh, good enough. And I kind of split the difference of the parking lots. Man, it's loud out there. Let's just get out of here and hop in the cab of the truck. People are driving by, gonna see me for sure. What in Sam Hill is dude getting out of his truck? Got the highway right there. I just saw a light shut off in there, I think. Let's get out of here. I'm in the truck. Nobody is really the wiser, I don't believe. But it is funny. I stepped out of the back and one of the lights in one of those rooms shut off. And they can definitely hear my truck starting. So yes, the highway right here, directly in front of me. As you see the cars driving by. So that was loud last night. And then right behind me is railroad tracks. There's actually somebody turning in here right now. I timed that perfect. I'm sure they're going to the restaurant. That it's a smokehouse, so it doesn't open right away. But I'm sure they got to be there early to get everything going. So right over here, I'm in the parking lot. The intersection, like, is right there. That's the road that goes north. That vehicle is turning up the other road right there. And right here is where they have the signage at. Now right here in front of me, this at one point was the highway. And there was a bridge there, and you could run all the way through down that way, and then Highway 6 runs right here, but that bridge has been closed for a long time. And I'd have no idea when that actually closed, but there's somebody coming up behind me. I need to get out of here. So there's the intersection right there, like I said. Let me get out of here. So supposedly it happened like right in somewhere around this intersection.
Nothing gives exact stuff about it, but blinker was blinking fast. I wonder if I've got a light out. And so he was coming down this highway, and he saw them back there, and there's a valley right here that you may or may not be able to kind of see. There's a valley that goes down, and then the railroad tracks actually come back up, and the train goes through. So there's this big dip right here. As we come around here, you should be able to see it. So there's kind of a valley right here. It's going to be hard to see on camera, and then on this side also, there's a little hill that comes down, and it kind of mentions that he had come down the hill towards the intersection, and that's where he saw it, and the incident took place. Yeah, it's kind of a wild story. So it was interesting to me. There's plenty of information out there. Like I said, I'm going to do my best to get that downloaded somehow, or get that into like a Dropbox file or a Google Drive file or something. I don't really have no idea what I'm doing with any of that stuff. And I'd like to be able to put that in the description so that you guys can check it out also. But either way, I will definitely link some stuff down below. Let me turn this light back on for you. I will definitely link some stuff down below in the description for you guys to read about this, because there are plenty of articles. However, that paper I had is the most detailed thing I've personally seen. So yeah, guys, it was a great night. It was cold, but it wasn't terrible back there without heat. I slept. I didn't get hassled. It wasn't exactly stealth camping because I was the only person in the parking lot, so there's really nothing stealthy about that, in my opinion. But I did sleep back there without anybody knowing about it. So I guess it was stealth camping. But I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I guess stay tuned for the next adventure. I'll see you in a bit.